Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the new screensavers is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. The new screensavers is brought to you by Epson's new EcoTank printers. With Epson's line of SuperTank all-in-one printers, you can print thousands of documents without running out of ink. EcoTank is loaded and ready to print when you are. Visit Epson.com/EcoTank to find out more. And by Braintree. Mobile app development can be complex, but integrating your payments no longer has to be. With Braintree, your business can accept nearly every type of payment from any device with just one integration. Learn more at BraintreePayments.com/NSS.
Google unveils the Pixel phone. We review the PlayStation VR and the creator of the Xbook One S laptop. Live from the Twit studios in beautiful Petaluma, it's the new screensavers.
Whoa! Hey, everybody, how are you today? Wee-haw! Welcome. Welcome to the new Screensavers. I'm Leo Laporte.
I'm Jason Snell.
You've been more on this network in the last 2 weeks than I have.
Yeah, who are you again?
Yeah, he's a new host. Actually, thank you for filling in. You filled in for me on the radio show.
Yeah.
You filled in on the Mac Break Weekly.
Near and dear to my heart.
And what else were you on?
This
show.
right now.
This is your third time here.
Yeah, I'm not filling in for you this time, though.
No, this is
You're
for
back.
real. You're for real this time from sixcolors.com.
Yep.
Jason and, of course, hosts the great Incomparable podcast. Many podcasts.
So many.
Yeah.
Too many to count,
Yeah.
really.
And I am back from vacation, and I thank all the folks who filled in for me because we had a great time, and I hear it was wonderful. Nothing's broken. I checked. Nothing's disappeared, so we're I'm dressed like this because I'm trying out Halloween costumes. I thought because of Westworld
Sure.
that maybe I could be like a broken cowboy robot.
You could.
I don't know. I feel like the face, though. I need to do something like maybe.
I don't know. I feel like you are the cowboy who's unsure whether he's a human or a robot.
Maybe I'm a visitor, or maybe I'm the. Have you watched the show yet on HBO?
Yeah.
The first episode was Sunday, and there's a new one. Actually, I think it's on HBO.
It's already streaming
now on HBO Go. But apparently, people are just loving the show. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's really good.
You can never go wrong with technology going wrong.
And they spent a lot of money on those horses and those cowboys and all those robots.
What's nice is the money they spent on all of that, they saved on costumes for the robots because they're all naked.
They're pretty much naked, yeah. In the future, all robots will be naked.
So, it is HBO.
It is HBO,
But I'm just wondering,
exactly right.
I mean, do you strip them down before you bring them into the lab? Is there a reason you don't leave the clothes on?
I imagine there will be an entire episode where we get to see the costuming of Westworld,
Okay,
right?
good. They do that later.
That'll be
And
just, they'll deep dive if they get to a second season.
If they need a shirt.
With the French on it.
With the French. I'm here. Hey, we have an amazing show. We're going to talk, of course, about Google's Pixel event, October 4th. I was on a plane,
Oh,
but
perfect.
I'm like trying to, do you have Wi-Fi on this plane? No, sir, we don't. I'm trying to figure out, I can't. I'm like in the no zone for 8 hours, not knowing what happened.
How does that feel? It's
Terrible.
Not good?
I
Not
hate
good?
it. Yeah. Especially knowing that Google's announcing some stuff. It's great. They announced a copy of the iPhone. They announced a copy of the Amazon Echo. They announced a copy of the Eero Wi-Fi, and they announced a copy of Gear VR. So they've copied everything now.
It's all about perfecting now.
Yeah, sure.
We've moved from invent to perfect.
Yeah, that must be it.
And a copy of the Chromecast.
Yeah, that's
that was
the
theirs,
actual
though, so
Chromecast, right?
It's fine.
We're also going to talk about Oculus Connect, a VR event that happened. We also have the new PlayStation VR.
So much VR. PSVR is
VR.
right here, yeah. I'm going to be modeling that.
Will
later.
you? You're going to play with that?
You're going to do like actual journalism and interview somebody who knows about VR, and I'm going to be standing around looking like a dummy.
You know, given the choice, I'd rather do what you.
Oh, I got the way easier job. I'm just going to be doing Job Simulator. I'm just going to look dumb. That's all.
We're going to go to the Maker Faire. Robert was there, Father Robert.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to a maker who built, well, I don't know why you would do this, a laptop computer out of his Xbox.
Yeah, it's an Xbox One laptop.
Maybe that sounds cool. He also made a robot.
Not a cowboy robot, though, so
no,
fortunately for us.
A Weibo robot. Let's talk about the Google event first. Joining us right now from the Wall Street Journal, Nathan Olivarez-Giles. Hey, Nathan.
Hey, how's it going?
How's that
How you
Mac
doing?
Pro I gave you working out?
Oh, so lovely.
Is it?
So nice. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big
All right,
fan.
the
I'm gonna be
USB
keeping that for a
ports and
while.
everything all working?
Yeah, it all works. It all works.
Actually, I wonder, because we have an Apple event coming up this month, if they'll announce a new Mac Pro. They
It
haven't.
would be about time, right? I mean,
About
it's been,
time.
what,
That thing is 3 years
4
old.
Years? 3 years? Yeah.
It's long
yeah.
past time now.
I don't think they're going to do a new Mac Pro.
I think the chips for it actually don't. Intel's not going to have them ready until the spring, maybe. So yeah.
Nathan, you got the Mac Pro, the one and only.
The
Yep.
Mac Pro, yeah.
So limited
Yeah, I'm
edition.
enjoying it.
So I was watching. I did see the Google event after the fact. I watched the stream. We did some great coverage. Jason Howell and everybody was here. First of all, that was a small event. You were in the room.
Yeah, it was only. I mean, it was one of the smallest Google events I've been to.
Yeah.
I think since the early Chromebook launches, there hasn't been much smaller. And I'm not entirely sure why that was. I think they're going for a little bit more of an intimate feel, but they also had to have more space for the hands-on area because they actually had like simulated living rooms, so you could test out Google Home and things like that. So
It was
but yeah,
an old chocolate factory power plant. He said. Sundar Pichai
had a
said.
weird vibe to it. Yeah, it was like, why here? Why here?
Watch for the Oompa Loompas. So let's start with the phones. The Pixel. And again, we knew most of this. We'd seen renders. We'd seen images. Pixel XL. Any surprises there?
Sadly not. I was really hoping for some surprises. I think maybe the biggest surprise might be that the software that you're going to get on the Pixel, for the most part, is specific to the Pixel, and it's not going to come to Nexus phones. So I think for the last 5-6 years, the promise has been that if you have a Nexus phone, you'll get the latest version of Android. And here Google is making something that is bespoke to this device. So the Google Assistant, which is their Siri competitor, is front and center with a long press on the home button, but it's only built into Android that way on the Pixel. So you're not going to get that on Nexus devices. And I think that's kind of a disappointment. But the hardware leaks, nothing was really surprising. I guess maybe one surprise might be that the 5-inch regular Pixel phone has a 1080p display, and I thought they would do a little bit better than that. I think that's actually kind of a bummer.
I don't know. I ordered that one because I was hoping the battery life would be a little bit better with just a 1080p display. Also,
it should be.
Because I couldn't get the big one because it was sold out. All of these phones got sold out so quickly, much like an Apple announcement.
You mentioned the features that are limited to the Pixel. One of the things that I thought was interesting is that they're adding some cloud features by giving free storage essentially to people who buy this phone. I think that's really
photos
interesting.
only, though, right? Or is it for other stuff too?
Well, I think it's all
Just
your
for
photos at
photos.
full quality.
Yeah.
But
photos
only
and
for
videos.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
and full
actually
quality.
pretty cool because I've been using the lower quality because I wanted unlimited storage.
Right.
Now I can do that in high quality, which is it only pictures you take on the Pixel, or is it all your images from now on?
Only pictures you take with the Pixel is my understanding.
Okay.
But we'll see once we get it into test. But yeah, it's kind of like what Amazon did with the Fire phone,
Right.
where
Right.
if you take pictures with this device, they're going to be uploaded to the
Originals.
Google Photos app and to the cloud. I mean, you'll be able to get them anywhere else you have your Google Photos, but you won't be able to just get like unlimited free storage.
They
in
did
perpetuity.
say that this camera, DxO Mark says this camera is the best camera phone, and better than the iPhone, better than the Galaxy. This is the best camera phone ever.
By like 1 or 2 points.
No, by a few points. No OIS, which I think is disappointing.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But I'm glad to see a better, because the Pixels, Nexus has never have great cameras, so this is.
That's
gonna
been a
be
major weakness. So
Yeah.
the fact that it seems like they're taking this seriously, that's a big deal. I got some hands-on time with the devices, and in those demo rooms with poor lighting, it was really difficult to
can't
get
tell.
a fair idea of how they'll hold up against what Samsung and Apple are putting out, which are really stellar these days.
Here's the
but-
shock for me was the sticker price. This is the same cost as the Apple iPhone, as the Galaxy S7 or Note 7. They are going high. And Nexus was never, it was getting more expensive. It was never as expensive as the top of the line flagship phones. This is a flagship phone at a flagship price. Do you think that's going to hurt them?
I honestly think it might. I mean, the Nexus brand has always been kind of a niche thing anyways, and I think the aspiration here is to really go mainstream, but even undercutting the competition by even like $100, even maybe $150 would have served them well. And I think the reason is that Google has a history of failures in crossing over on the consumer hardware side outside of Chromecast, right? That's been like their one success. And part of the reason why that was such a big success was that it was $35. So, you know, I think people don't really take Google serious as a hardware brand yet. They want to change that, and I admire the ambition. But going toe-to-toe price-wise with Apple and Samsung from the get-go, I'm not sure that's really a good look.
The Google Assistant isn't just going to be on the Pixel phones. It's also going to be on the new Google Home, their Amazon Echo competitor. And if you have Allo on Android or iOS, you have it now, right? Or is that not the case?
Yeah, that is the case.
Okay.
It's the same assistant. It's just on Allo, you get to text message with it.
Right.
On Google Home, you can speak to it. And the way that it's built into the Android operating system on Pixel, you can speak to it. Strangely enough, you can't speak to it and text it in the same app, even though both of those abilities are on the Pixel phone,
right.
Which is a bit of a head scratcher to me. I think that's going to come in time. It seems like they were just trying to get all this stuff out at once. And, you know, I want to give them a little bit of props for launching basically a phone, a speaker, and a messaging app at nearly the same time with the same assistant. But at the same time, you know, it's just kind of a weird disconnect that in one place you can talk to it via text, and the other place you can only talk to it via voice. It's a little bit weird there.
Is it your sense they plan to roll this out across all of Android eventually, that this is just kind of to get it going and then they'll slowly make it available for everybody?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I actually spoke with Rishi Chandra, who's overseeing the home device, and he used to run the Chromecast team. And he says that everywhere that Google exists, they want to have the assistant there too.
Okay.
So, you know, they're starting with the messaging app. They're starting with the Pixel and with the home speaker, but he was saying he'd love to see it built into Chromebooks and the Chrome operating system, Android television sets, you know, basically anything that they can get it into. Now, the reason, of course, is that they want to be able to answer your questions and give you, you know, take care of your needs anywhere. But the idea is this one computer that kind of follows you everywhere, that Star Trek computer kind of ideal that we've all been talking about for so long. And the only way to actually pull that off, they have to be everywhere. So now that being said, it was interesting to me that they didn't talk at all about Android Wear or Chromebooks or Android television sets or anything at this event. I mean, this is their big, you know, end of year, hey, buy this stuff for the holidays, you know, get your new phone. And they left out a good significant portion of the hardware efforts they already have underway.
Well, it's always a problem when you have a lot of stuff going on. You can't get it all into one event, but it does show you where they're focused. I think what's interesting in the long run, I know Apple with Siri wants to do this. Amazon wants to do with the Echo Assistant, Alexa.
Microsoft with Cortana.
They're all trying to get to the point where it is that Star Trek vision of you just talk and it responds. At this point, I think we're guinea pigs, whether it's on the iPhone or the Pixel phone. We're giving them the data, the feedback, the information. We're seeding this so that in a few years or maybe a decade, it'll finally live up to that potential. It doesn't now.
Oh, definitely. I mean, by current standards, it's you know, super like in an infant stage. It's not even crawling.
We're teaching it.
Walking.
We're the ones teaching it, right?
Yeah, and in fact, I'm glad you brought that up because the assistant on the speaker has the same privacy settings that you would have with the assistant on the Allo app or any voice search that you're going to commit on the web or text search. So what that means is that all of your searches are encrypted in transit to Google. They decrypt that, and then they use their algorithms and their software to analyze what you're saying so that they can deliver you the proper response and give you this a feeling of having a conversation, essentially. But that means that those conversations are kept on their servers unencrypted. And, you know, that, of course, is a privacy concern for some. But this is what Google has been doing with all their stuff, so it shouldn't be much of a surprise. Now, that being said, you can still go to the Google My Account website, and you can still delete your voice searches as you would anything else, but they will show up as voice searches and not specific to the Google Assistant on Home. So you won't be able to differentiate in those settings. But it's nice that you have some control and you can go back and delete that search history if you want to. But as we know, most people don't.
Were you able to play with the home device at all?
Yeah, I spent about a half hour with it.
What do you think?
You know, I really like it. It sounds a lot better than Echo does. Just as terms of audio.
They're claiming a better speaker.
Music.
Yeah,
it's a better speaker, and also it was just really, really fast and pretty accurate in terms of the voice commands I was throwing at it. Now, that being said, I was trying it before there were, hundreds of thousands, if not millions out there in the wild, which of course will slow things down a little bit. But as far as a prototype device goes, I was impressed, and I thought it was, really, really great. Now, what it doesn't do is control third-party apps. It doesn't even control some Google apps. So, for example, you could say, hey, what's on my calendar today? And it would say, okay, you have an episode of the new Screensavers coming up. You have this, that, and that. But you can't say something like, hey, when are the Giants playing? And then it will respond with 5 o'clock.
So it's a very limited. It's a very limited ecosystem compared to the Echo at this point.
Yeah, but Google's putting a lot of effort, and this is the focus of the company. They say so. I expect them to catch up, but they are playing catch up here. And the fact that you can't even add a calendar appointment with your voice yet.
Wow.
That's kind of like a little bit. Yeah. Now, also, it can only handle one Google account at a time. So if you have this in your home. Everyone in your home is going to have access to your Google account.
That's
and, let's say you're planning, your daughter's birthday party and she walks up and says, what's on your calendar? That might give the secret away, right?
The Echo didn't have this initially, but eventually you were able to switch Amazon accounts verbally with the Echo. I hope that Google will add that. I've been starting to think a little bit about silos, about how these companies, Apple started it, are creating ecosystems that are unique to the company. And Google, for the first time ever, is doing this. In fact, if I were an Android phone manufacturer, I'd start to wonder at this point, is Google just going to put me out of business? Samsung, which is putting itself out of business, has got to be very concerned if there's features on the Pixel phone that don't then become part of Android in general.
Yeah, I think that's a big concern. I mean, I know there are a lot of people wondering, is Google competing with Apple head-to-head here?
Yeah, it sounds like it. They're trying to create this closed ecosystem.
I think so, but I think you bring up a good point that they're really going to be competing just as much, if not more, with Android manufacturers, Android hardware partners, than Apple.
Samsung just bought Vive, which this was the company that was the follow-up to Siri, the Siri folks. And it's obvious why Samsung would do that.
There'll be a Samsung voice assistant
They have to compete. But for a user, it's a bad idea because you choose now your ecosystem. What if you chose, look at the Samsung ecosystem. Everything Samsung makes, from the Gear VR to the Gear Watch to the 360 camera, requires a Samsung phone. And then the Samsung phone blows up. You suddenly lose not just your phone business, you lose your whole ecosystem business. So there's a risk as well. And from consumer point of view, I hate to have to choose, but I guess we're going to have to, it sounds like.
That's one of the strengths of Amazon's Echo, is that because Amazon doesn't play in all the same fields as Google and Apple, they have support for kind of crossover features that, Google is unlikely to support Apple Music, and I would guess that any future Apple product is unlikely to support Google services.
Google was more open. I mean, Allo runs on iOS and Android, so does Duo, their phone app, camera phone app. I was hoping that Google would kind of be the one to kind of cross-platform barriers. Now I'm starting to wonder if they're just looking at Apple's success and saying maybe we ought to be doing that too.
It feels to me like they want to have it both ways.
Yeah. What about the Wi-Fi? What is that? Is OnHub dead?
OnHub is not dead, but really this is where things are going. So if you have an OnHub router, you can actually use that as one of the little pods.
It can be one of the units.
System.
Okay. This looks just like the Eero. Is it an Eero, basically?
It's basically an Eero ripoff. I mean, I think that's a fair way of putting it. So it's a distributed Wi-Fi. They create basically mesh networks, so there's no central router. And as you move through your home, your devices, find what is the nearest and strongest connection point and communicate with that.
I've had great results with the Eero. So this is a good way to do it. There's a lot of other competition. The Luma from Amazon, and then there's this Plume, which is coming out later this year. This is going to be the next thing, I think, for Wi-Fi. It solves a problem a lot of us have.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes a lot of sense, and it's smart for Google to go this direction. If they have OnHub, not doing this would put them behind. So it's easy to say it's a ripoff, but it's also where the technology is going, and it's simply kind of what they had to do.
I think we're going to see something like this from Apple.
It's got to be, right? That airport stuff is also pretty old.
And Apple's left that just a lot.
And it's a natural, right? Because it is so simple to set it up when you plug them in, and then you've got Wi-Fi coverage everywhere.
And since this is the VR show, they also have Daydream, their VR headset, which just looked like a soft, comfortable version of Gear VR. Is it any different?
I mean, it basically... It is cheaper. It isn't as good as Gear VR thus far. And now I only got to spend about 15, 20 minutes with it. It was comfortable and it was light, and I really liked that. But it didn't have a strap that goes over the top of your head. So with just that one band around the back, honestly, when I was making quick movements, it kind of felt like it would slip off. So it's definitely better than cardboard, right? But it doesn't seem to quite have the fidelity
functionally,
of
it is
Gear
cardboard,
VR's
right?
offer.
It is cardboard. It's just not
Functionally,
made
it's the same as cardboard. It's just made of really nice cloths and plastics.
Okay.
I mean, it looks like a Lululemon product, really, you know?
with fine Alcantara leather or whatever.
But that that little remote worked quite well with that motion sensing clickable touch panel up top and a couple buttons. I think it's going to be pretty compelling for mobile VR. And, we'll see how many Daydream-ready phones there are. But this should be able to work with a lot more phones than Samsung's Gear VR. So it should be a more versatile product. I don't think it's going to work with the iPhone, which is kind of a bummer because I think if they did that, as Cardboard was able to do, that could really help them sell more devices.
It's interesting that all the big companies are converging in certain areas to do the same kind of set of products. It's as almost, I don't know if it's a copycat mentality or there's just consensus. These are the things everybody wants and this is how it's going to be. It worries me a little bit. This seems new to me. There was like this just kind of a lot of different stuff. People were throwing things against the wall. Now we've converged.
I think it goes in cycles, right?
Maybe.
Like the companies, you get new companies, they all get bought up.
Right.
Then you get a cycle where everybody's trying to focus on a few things, and then suddenly there's another big thing that comes in from nowhere.
That's important. The big innovations, the paradigm shifts aren't going to occur at Google, Facebook, Apple, or Microsoft.
Right.
They're going to happen somewhere else, and then they'll be bought. Nate, great. It's great to see you. I thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure. I was thinking about dressing up like Woody for Toy Story, and your shirt's really inspiring me there.
Hey, little buddy.
That might be my Halloween costume. It's a good look on you.
We could do it together. Yeah. Nathan Olivarez-Giles, thank you so much from the Wall Street Journal. Great to talk to you. We'll see you soon on the Screensavers or
see you soon
on Twit.
There's a snake in my boots.
Let's see. I guess I want to move along a little bit. We could talk about Yahoo. That's one that's still going on because we just learned that what Yahoo was originally saying about the wiretap was, we just modified the spam filter a little bit to look for a particular signature for a bad guy. Now it's coming out that Yahoo independently wrote essentially a rootkit. Yahoo Security didn't even know about it. At first, Yahoo Security thought it was malware. They said, "What's this?"
Oh, that was us. Sorry.
Yeah, we wrote that. The question is, how much did they have to do? The government, these secret requests, you can't not comply.
Right.
But how hard did they fight? And should they have written a rootkit? And as a Yahoo customer, were you endangered? Some say yes. Every Yahoo customer was endangered by this. This is just, but it's a developing story. So we'll talk more about it tomorrow on Twit, and I think over the next week or two, this is going to be a developing story. It is very interesting.
The word Yahoo never has good news attached to it anymore, does it?
Well, now Verizon says, hey, can we take $1 billion off the top there? Because this is damaged goods now. We're buying this. Aye. All right, I did get the new iPhone 7 before we left on our trip. Not this one. I actually got a gold model and traded it in for the jet black.
For the jet black?
And I like you like the jet black.
I
right?
love the jet black.
Now yours is not in a case, you crazy fella.
I know. I'm okay with micro abrasions because I like how I can hold it in my hand without a case.
I'm okay with micro abrasions.
It's not gonna slip out of my hands like a bar of soap, and that's what I'm looking for.
People say it's more grippy. Is it really?
It is, absolutely.
I don't know because I put mine in a rubber case.
Well, it's got the shiny texture instead of the metallic texture that the other ones do, and if you've got any moisture on your hands at all, it's just gonna. It's going to grab them.
And it's a fingerprint magnet.
It is. It's actually got the same oleophobic coating that the glass has. So you just wipe it off on a cloth or on your T-shirt or whatever. It comes right off. Yeah.
Don't use sandpaper, though. That would be bad. Don't wipe it off with
I don't advise it. That wouldn't be macro abrasions you'll get then. That's even worse.
I have some pictures. I have to say, the camera is, as has always been on the iPhone, stellar. I think the two lenses really makes a difference. I brought some pictures back, and I was this is Bruges in Belgium, very pleased with color, the crispness. This is in a dark room on a ship. It really did I think a great job. Let me show you. I have Notre Dame here somewhere, Cathedral. These are some pictures from in bright sunlight. Remarkable. So I'm very happy with the quality of the images I got. The home button doesn't bother me. I thought it would. I like the little...
Yeah, what setting do you use?
1.
I'm on 3.
Oh, you like the high buzz.
I like the big buzz, but once I set it to 3, I was totally fine with it.
Yeah. To me, it's not a physical button, but you get used to the idea that it's not a physical button. I do have to say, a bit of a pain not having a headphone jack. We're on the plane. I want to listen to my books. I can't charge it while I'm listening.
Right.
That's kind of annoying, but not a deal breaker.
That is the single worst use case, that or in a car, where you want to do audio out via the headphone jack and charge.
Right.
And on a long flight, that would be an issue.
And it's no accident that Apple is the #1 Bluetooth headphone manufacturer in the world because of Beats.
Right.
#1. And what does this really want? A Bluetooth headphone. Did you get the AirPods yet?
I don't have them yet. They're
Soon.
coming out this month, so I hope to try them out in the next
right.
couple of weeks.
I also got the new Apple Watch. Got the ceramic, right? The white. It's
shiny
made out of
white.
Cubic zirconia.
Yeah. It starts as powder and it turns into a watch. Look at that.
I like it.
It's pretty.
Ridiculously expensive.
Yeah. Not as expensive as the old Apple Watch edition that was like gold.
Yeah.
But
it's 1/10 the cost.
But it's still expensive. That's $8,000 product there.
Yeah. I like it.
Looks great.
Nobody needs an Apple Watch.
No.
But I wore it the whole trip. And there, for navigation, it was always nice to know when I got back, oh, you did 20,000 steps. Stuff like that. That's great.
And watchOS 3 makes it a lot better than...
Big improvement.
Yeah, like even if you have an old Apple Watch, the watchOS 3 upgrade will make
upgrade
the Apple Watch much better.
Yeah, I love how it's much cleaner and simpler, and that's really what they needed to do. All right, enough of that. Let's put on your headgear here.
All
We're
right.
going to talk about
oh boy,
the PlayStation VR. It comes out next week. Somehow we magically got one.
Amazing.
I can't believe it. I had played with this a few months ago on triangulation, and I loved it because it's more affordable than the Oculus or the Vive. If you have a PlayStation 4 and you have the Move little controllers there, you've got everything you need except for the VR helmet. That's only going to be a couple of $100. $399 for the core bundle, $499 for the launch bundle. You do need a camera and the Move controllers. If you want to buy the whole kit and caboodle, if you don't have a PlayStation 4, $800. You're going to play Office Simulator, which is a great game. While we talk right now to Addie Robertson of The Verge. Hi, Addie.
Hi.
So, here it is, the PlayStation VR. What do you think? You like it?
Yeah, I like it a lot. In a lot of ways, I think it's probably not my personal favorite system, but it's one of the most approachable ones, and it's at a pretty good price, and they've got a decent catalog.
Put it in context, because the competition is, of course, at the low end, Google Cardboard and Gear VR, and then at the high end, the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift. Where does it fit in that?
So just in terms of bare specs, it's tethered like the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive. It has a sort of more complex control scheme like those headsets. It has an external tracking camera like those headsets. And it doesn't use a phone the way that Google Cardboard and Gear VR and Daydream are.
The computer is the PlayStation 4.
Right.
Is the PlayStation 4 powerful enough, though, to give us a really good VR experience?
It depends on what they're doing. So Sony has a lot of sort of arcadey games, which to be fair, the Vive does too.
Right.
So if they were trying something really, really high-powered, like some Oculus Rift games, I'm not sure it could do it. But I also haven't tried it with the PlayStation 4 Pro.
Right. The newer, faster one might be a little bit more suited to this, especially with the 4K capability. What about the Move controllers? Some have complained that these, and they are older controllers, are not. Are you having trouble, Jason?
Oh, yeah.
You're stuck. He's stuck. He's got he's using the Move controllers for his hands. That's, by the way, something that Oculus has only just announced and will be available.
Okay.
I think those controllers are important. Do you think the Move lives up to what it needs to be?
I don't think the Move controllers are particularly good. They don't track fantastically, and they're just not designed well for virtual reality. They have a bunch of little tiny buttons. But in terms of just getting people to actually be able to do basic motion controls, they do the job there. And I'm not sure that Sony would have sort of gone out on a limb to make a whole new set of motion controllers. So the hope is just that this does well enough that then they'll introduce a version 2 that actually has something better.
Right. So the real key is going to be the games, right? The catalog of software. A lot of people are going crazy over Tilt Brush, for instance, which isn't even a game, a painting game. That's on the HTC Vive. Office Simulator is also on the, I think this is, Oculus has this as well as the PlayStation. What is the launch set of games and how good are they? Is there anything that's really so great that you'll just, I gotta have it?
So it's around 30 games for the launch titles. I have not played all of them.
What? Why not, Addie?
They haven't sent all of them to me yet. There are some of them we're still waiting on. I've heard really great things about Res Infinite. I enjoyed Thumper a lot. It's probably my favorite game. It's also non-VR, but it's really, really cool in PlayStation VR. It's this sort of creepy rhythm game.
Yeah.
There's also a kind of Tetris-like game called Super Hypercube. That's cool because it kind of takes advantage of VR while still being a seated game, that you have to look around you to see something that's happening behind you to figure out the shape that you need to turn this Tetris piece in.
That's a really, this is an
so it's a really
interesting
clever use of the mechanic.
Yeah. So you have a 360-degree space that you're operating in to do this hypercube.
Right.
Yeah. Very interesting. Huh. I played the game where you're driving down the road with a Staten replica and you're shooting at gangsters out the window. I thought that was pretty fun. I enjoyed that.
Oh yeah, the London Heist.
Yeah, that's it.
It's also good.
It's kind of like Duck Hunt.
Batman Arkham VR, I just kind of wish they were longer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's early days. What do you think overall? Is VR a gimmick, or is it long-term going to be a complete change in how we interface with gaming?
I don't know. It could easily be neither of those things and be an interesting niche application that doesn't completely revolutionize games, but that does offer a new way to interact with them in a really cool new category.
Yeah.
I'm hoping at the very least it will be that. I think there's certainly enough out there that you definitely would be missing out if you never played a VR game.
Right.
I don't know if that's enough that you should actually buy something right now, but there's a lot out there.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd recommend buying it either. It's cool, it's fun, but what I find is after a while, I don't go back to it. It's like, yeah, that was fun. But you're $800 out, and it's something you don't use all the time. I don't find it that compelling yet, but it's early days. We'll have to wait and see. Now, you were also at the Oculus Connect event, I know, and do you feel like the direction Mark Zuckerberg's taking with Oculus is going to suit it well? How does it fit in with the Facebook kind of strategy? Or what did you do? From Jason is, are you in a Quickie Mart? What do you do?
I am ruining everything at the Quickie Mart.
It's fun, isn't it, Jason?
Oh, this is bizarre, but it's actually really good. The head tracking.
It's one of those
solid.
things where when you first do it, it's really fun, and you go, "Oh, this is great. This is going to change the world." That was my reaction. This is going to change the world. But then you notice a few months down the road, it's gathering dust a little bit. It's not something you just run to do every day.
Well, you have to have something compelling, right? It's like anything else. You don't just buy a video game console and have it sit there.
Yeah.
You buy a video game console and get a good game that really immerses you.
That's what may be missing. Is that killer game that will make everybody want to play it. Mark announced a standalone, the Santa Cruz project, Oculus Rift, that doesn't need to be tethered, right? Audie? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell me about that.
So Santa Cruz right now, it's a prototype. They're very clear it's not a product. It looks a lot like a wireless Oculus Rift that has electronics sort of stuffed into it, and it has 4 cameras along the front face.
That I found interesting. So these are cameras that are looking at your world.
Right. It's called inside-out motion tracking, and it's looking at the world, and it's based on my limited understanding, detecting, okay, that's an edge, this thing is this far away, I'll walk, I'll translate this into real space, I can see now you're like 1 foot away from this thing.
So it's not augmented reality, but it is kind of giving you a sense of your actual real environment inside the game.
Not really, it's more just that it's the way that right now Oculus and Sony, whatever, have external tracking cameras that tracks the distance between where the sensor is in real space and where your headset is in real space. Right. It's just sort of doing that with things it finds in the world, but it's not passing those things along to you. Right. It's just using those as external reference.
All right. Audie, I thank you so much for joining us. Audie Robertson writes at The Verge and covers this along with a lot of other subjects. It's great to talk to you. Thank you. Senior reporter at The Verge, Addie Robertson.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We sent Jason Howell. We couldn't stop him. We sent Jason Howell to the Oculus Connect 3 event this week. He got to play some games. He has 3 favorites, and also took a look at the new Oculus Touch controllers. Take a look.
Hey, thanks, Leo. My legs are tired at this point because I've walked the halls and played a whole lot of the gaming experiences here at Oculus Connect 3, all sorts of virtual reality experiences, and I've had a blast doing it. I've got a few experiences to tell you about in specifically. First one is Super Hot. Now, this is a really cool game because it kind of takes the Matrix style of slow motion action, but it's all based around how fast you move in the game. So you've got people approaching you, you've got a number of objects that you can throw at them or guns that you can pick up and shoot at them, but nothing happens unless you're actively moving. And if you move faster, action happens faster. So it's almost like a strategy first-person shooter. Really unique gameplay. Another experience that I really enjoyed was I Expect You to Die. And the developers of I Expect You to Die even admit that this is, firmly close to the James Bond style of kind of humor and gameplay. In this case, you're inside of an environment. You have to figure out how you get yourself out. So in my case, I was sitting in a car and I was trying to move the car out of this room, but I have to find the keys, and then I fail the retina scan, so a bomb drops out, and I have to figure out how do I disarm this bomb. It's piece by piece by piece, trying to solve the puzzle, and you kind of feel a little panic set in when you realize you're about to fail. So that was a lot of fun. By far, probably the best experience that I've experienced here is a game called Lone Echo. They showed it off on stage, so it's definitely a big feature of the event here. And what it is you're floating in anti-gravity, and it's a multiplayer game, so it's a team-based game where you're floating through this space. You can grab the walls and kind of push yourself off the walls to propel yourself across to the other side. Total anti-gravity. You're seeking these discs that you can use to throw into your opponent's goal and score points. So it's a team-based game. You can talk to everyone while you're playing, and I truly felt like I was floating in space. For someone who's always wanted to do that, it's about as close as I'll probably ever get, and I just had so much fun. But I think over all of this, one of the big key components that everyone is really showcasing here is the Oculus Touch. They finally released a release date for that, December 6th. It's going to release for $199. It's going to include a second camera, and if you want to add a third camera, that's $79. That's going to allow you to scale this to room scale, much like the HTC Vive does. So the Oculus Touch as a controller, I mean, in my experience, is probably the best controller out there right now for VR. It just does a whole lot of things, like you can point your finger. You're not pushing a button, but you're pointing your finger, and that becomes part of the game mechanics. Really cool stuff, and I can't wait for you to try it. That's it from Oculus Connect 3. Maybe before we leave, I might just hit another booth and play another game, because it's really hard to leave without doing that. Back to the studio, you guys.
Which one you like? You like that 3D fighting space?
That 3D game there, that's like something out of Ender's Game, right?
That was the best part of Ender's Game, is the simulation that they had to do.
Right,
battles.
the zero-G battles, and you can't play that in real life because it's got to be in zero-G. Right. So you could do it in VR, and that would be really exciting. I worry that it would also be super nauseating. Yeah. But awesome.
It feels like it's a technology in search of its voice. Like, what is this going to be good at?
I know developers who are very excited about VR. They're just not sure what they want to do with it yet. Like, what's the right thing? And I think somebody will stumble on it.
Yeah. Sometimes I think they're too immersive. It's almost like, I just want to give me a screen.
Right.
And it sits in front of me, and I'm sitting down, and I can see the world around me, and I can have a sandwich and play a game. And that's kind of what I want to do. Even something like No Man's Sky, where it's a whole universe, I'm not sure I want to be immersed in it.
Right. I think that one of the ways you design a game like this maybe is to have a level of remove from it. So a starship game where you're on the bridge of a starship, there's still a screen in that game that you're looking at, but there are also controls.
Oh, good. Just what I need to buy a $1,000 VR helmet so I can look at a screen.
But you've also got your world around you on the bridge of the starship,
so
right?
Instead of a sandwich,
you feel like you're Captain Picard or something,
some
right?
green fluid, and you can drink.
You could cook hot dogs like I was doing for 5 minutes there.
Did you at the Quickie Mart?
Yeah, well, I couldn't get to the hot dogs. The freezer was under this table, so I couldn't get to it. So I just
saw you.
I just defaced the whole the whole place is ruined. I'm never getting that job back, is what I'm saying.
It's funny. Why would but the job simulator is fun.
It's hilarious. Game. It's like you're in a Simpsons episode.
All right, we're going to do a call for help in just a second. Sterling, hang on. We're going to Ohio for a question for you. I think you're going to have to help with this one. But first, who was it? I want to name names. I know who it was. One of the big printer manufacturers this week did a firmware update that meant their printer would work with any third-party cartridges, right? This is what I don't like about the tech industry, when they become predatory on their own customers. And this is why I have to honor Epson for doing the EcoTank printers. This is the exact opposite. You get an Epson EcoTank printer. It comes with 2 years of ink in the box. You don't have ink cartridges. You have a tank, a refillable tank. And when I have to go out and buy new ink on our Epson ET4550, because we have one here and one at home, Lisa loves them. In 2018, when I run out of ink, I go out and I buy bottles at 80% less than the old cartridges, and I just refill it. It is awesome. The Epson EcoTank printers, I want to honor Epson for putting customers first. In fact, they won some awards. They won the CES 2016 Innovation Award. They won the 2016 Small Biz Windows Printer of the Year. I think people are ready for this. No more out-of-ink frustration. You're also getting a great printer, but the ET4550, the one we bought, has 11,000 black pages or 8,500 colored pages of ink in the box. You get a great printer based on their precision core technology. There's none better. Two-sided printing. You've got an incredible document feeder that actually works. It's the first one I've ever had that actually feeds the documents and doesn't squinch them up. It also, of course, gives you vivid colors, black and white text. It's crisp, no warm-up time, and no running out of ink. 2 years of ink in the box. Visit Epson.com/EcoTank today to find out more. Transform the way your home, your office, your work group prints. They've got printers for every size. For the best combination of ease and value, turn to the Epson EcoTank printers. EPSON, Epson.com/EcoTank. And we thank them so much for their support. Epson, exceed your vision, doing the right thing for consumers. It's time for a call for two. Help me, Mr. Wizard. Sterling on the line from Piqua, Ohio. Hi, Sterling.
Hey, how you doing?
I am great. I like the Disneyland shirt. Are you a Disney fan?
Just was there a month and a half ago.
Looks like you got a Winnie the Pooh box set behind you there.
That's Calvin and Hobbes.
I mean, Calvin and Hobbes, not Winnie the Pooh. What am I?
All right.
So, do you have kids, or are you just childlike in your mean?
Well, when you build prisons for a living, you need to escape.
Oh my God! Is that what you do for a living? Really?
Yeah, I build prisons.
Wow. Is that different from building another kind of building?
We deal with the specialized equipment in the prison, like the doors, the frames, the hardware, the control systems, glass, etc.
Wow. And you have to make sure nobody can dig a tunnel underneath, right?
That's the concrete contractor.
Oh, that's not your problem. Sterling, what can we do for you?
Hey, I'm thinking about moving into the Apple universe. I currently have a Windows 10 tablet, and I hate Windows 10. So I'm thinking about going to an iPad Pro 9.7. And I have three questions. The first question is, can I download and upload documents? Usually I use a USB because I keep all my documents in one file. That way when I'm traveling, I got all my documents I can edit, and then I can move everything back to my main computer.
Well, I just happen to have an expert on this subject.
Yeah, you can do that. There's actually a way, people don't know about it, that in iTunes, and this is Mac or PC, if you connect an iPad or an iPhone and you clip over to one of the tabs in there, you get this application window basically, and you can pick the app that you want and then drag your files in, and they go right over.
So you need an app that can read that particular type of file.
Right.
And then it handles that for you. It knows, and it'll show you the kinds of files that you could add to that.
So that's one way to do it, is over the wire. I use that to edit podcasts on my iPad, and those are huge files, but I just drag them into the box for my podcast editor in iTunes. It doesn't sync or anything. It's a direct transfer. The files go over. You can also drag them out of that box right back to your computer if you want to take them back off. So that's one way to do it. The other way is that iOS has this thing called document pickers, the document picker interface, and it will work with cloud services. So if you have a OneDrive or Dropbox, and you can get a Dropbox account for free, I think it works with Google Drive too. Then if you put your documents in there and they sync to your iPad, you can actually open those documents directly on the iPad that way, and they sync both ways.
But again, the app that you're using will have to support that.
Yes, that has to support the document picker. So it comes down to specifically what apps you're using and what file types, but ideally, you should be able to do it one way or another.
That's the big thing to understand, Sterling, about the iPad. If you've been using a Mac or a Windows PC, you're used to having a file system, access to the files on the hard drive, folders, organization. And Apple didn't want that complexity for iPad users, so they hide the file system.
Yeah, it's there.
You can't just look at files. You can't move files from one app to another or open a file created by one app from another app. There has to be a mechanism to do that provided by Apple.
It's better than it used to be, because now with the document pickers, and you can hand files off between apps, but it wasn't designed that way originally. And so not all the apps support it fully yet. But it is a way to do it using Dropbox. I write all my stories in a text editor that uses Dropbox, and I can open files that I've saved on my Mac with Dropbox, and I can open them back up, and I can save files, and they show up in Dropbox, and that all works. So you can either use the cloud, or you can actually use iTunes.
Well, let's
and
help
copy
Sterling
files
directly.
back and forth.
What kinds of files, Sterling, are you talking about? Are these Microsoft Office documents? What are they?
Mostly all Office documents, Excel, Word, and PowerPoint presentations.
Well, that's easy, because not only does Apple's own apps, Pages and Numbers and Keynote support the analogs on the Microsoft side, but Microsoft makes actually very good Office apps for the iPad.
Exactly.
So you could, now would that work if could I use the iTunes interface if I had Word for the iPad installed? Would I see my Word documents?
I think you would, although I think what they would prefer you to do at that point is use OneDrive, although I think you can still use iCloud Drive and Dropbox even in those circumstances.
So, and we're moving this way, and that actually solves a lot of the problems towards cloud storage of everything, right?
Right.
And once you get it up in the cloud, once you copy it over your iPad, you save it into the cloud, then it's available.
But you don't have to do, if you don't like the cloud, you don't have to use it. You can do it directly.
I definitely do it directly, definitely.
Yeah.
I think actually Microsoft has really done a great job supporting iOS. They make some of the best apps they make in general for iOS first.
I love those Microsoft apps for iOS. They're really good. All of them, all the Office apps.
Now you say you use an Android phone?
Correct. I also, when I travel a lot, I like to take a lot of photos. And on a daily basis, I like to dump all the photos down into, which is now my tablet, but would be the iPad. That way I have a folder set up for each day, and that's how I archive everything in my main computer for backing up. So I'm wondering how to get the photos down and how to get the photos back out without going to the cloud.
Yeah, I wish that you could just plug your Android phone in with a cable to the iPad and it would show up as a camera, but I couldn't find any apps that do that.
Now, doesn't Apple have a camera connection?
It does. If you've got a memory card on your Android phone and you can pop it out and put it in the card reader, that'll work.
Okay,
but just connecting the phone directly won't work.
If you'd have to see, here's the problem. That USB is designed to have a computer and a dumb device.
Right.
And you've got two relatively smart devices. It's hard to get them to talk to each other. Sometimes you can put your Android phone into a mass storage
a camera mode or mass storage mode, right? Where it pretends to be a really big MTP memory card.
Right. And then it might work if you had the camera connection.
I think it would if you could do that. So there's a workaround here. The other way to do it is I found an app called InstaShare. Which is for Android and iOS, and it basically lets you transfer lots of files, including all your photos, from one device to another. I tried this out with an Android phone with a Nexus 4 and with my iPhone 7, and it worked fine. It would also work with an iPad. So you go on your Android phone and you'd select all your images, and you would long press and say, send these to InstaShare. And then on your Mac, or on your iPad in this case, you'd open InstaShare and accept the file transfer, and all the files would transfer over. Now, it'll be fastest if you're both on the same Wi-Fi network, but it does do Bluetooth transfers too if you're somewhere where there's no network at all.
So it's kind of like AirDrop, but cross-platform.
Exactly, right. So it's not as easy as just plugging a cable in and pressing import, but it's pretty close.
I'll be honest, Sterling, you're gonna face some frustrations because it isn't like a full computer operating system. So it's important when you get an iPad, or I would say this applies to a Chromebook too, that you understand the limitations On the other hand, you get such advantages as well. You don't have the security issues, you don't have the reliability issues, or the complexity of a full general purpose operating system. If you can, the real trick for you, Sterling, is going to be to see if you can get your workflow. Once you get it working and into your iPad, then it'll be easy. It'll be automatic. And what'll occasionally happen is some frustration, or maybe even some roadblocks where you can't get
and you
there
need to
from
change
here.
your workflow a little bit.
You'll have to rethink
it does sometimes happen.
Yeah, but once you get it working, you're going to love it. I think and boy, not having to worry about viruses and malware and ransomware and all that stuff, that's a nice feeling.
Or my Windows 10 breaking down every time they do an update.
I have had, they have done, every time Microsoft updates Windows 10, I have blue screens, I have problems. I don't understand what's going on there. It's crazy. We built that ultimate virtual reality gaming machine as a Windows 10 machine, specifically to run the HTC Vive, and it's, as the anniversary update just clobbered it. I have to sit down and spend some hours working on it. Oof. And then when you do that, you realize the frustration. Now, you can't use the HTC Vive on an iPad or a Chromebook. So there are things a general purpose operating system, and only a general purpose operating system, can do. But if you don't need to do those things, boy, it's a simpler world, and it's a lot.
And then the third thing was on Microsoft Office. I see where you can get Microsoft Office on there, but it's only the 386 or
365.
Yeah.
And they want that subscription. I don't pay subscriptions for software. I pay for it once and I use it forever.
Yeah, I don't blame you. So I think all of the Office apps are free, aren't they?
They're free, but they're limited. They only want to read. If you want to write, if you want to edit, I believe you have to have a subscription. And I looked this up. I was trying to do this research because they sell a standalone version for PC and Mac,
doesn't give you the,
but not iOS. On iOS, they want you to use 365. Now, when you wrote to us originally, you said you're eligible for an education version.
Correct.
So the bad news is I don't think you can just pay Microsoft a fee to unlock the iOS apps forever.
That's frustrating.
And I hope they change that. They've changed the policy on their iOS apps like 5 times in the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah. It may change again. But I will say the good news is if you've got access to an education institution of some sort, you probably have a subscription option that's dramatically less.
Like $4 a month or something.
Yeah, something less.
I pay $8 a month. I think that's a pretty good deal for the complete Office on 5 machines.
To be completely free of a subscription, though, it sounds like right now Microsoft doesn't want to let you do that on iOS, and it's totally frustrating. They should let you pay them some flat fee and walk away with the iOS apps.
Yeah,
but they don't.
Sounds like I have frustration no matter which way I go.
Yeah.
I stay with
remember
this or
though,
I go with that.
Remember though that the free Apple apps
will
read those doc files.
Right. You could use Keynote and Pages and Numbers, and there's going to be a learning curve there. I guess what I would say is if you're going back and forth between your PC and your iPad, you're not going to want to convert those things back and forth.
The round tripping is not good.
But if you want to have a spreadsheet and a word processor,
convert it one time only.
Those work.
There's one weird thing, of course, there's Office for the web, which is free, and actually works in Safari on the iPad. So that may be, you might play with that a little bit and see how that works, doing what you want to do. It's a much more limited version of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. But frankly, most people don't use all of those features.
And the Google apps are good too.
Is that web-based?
Yeah, it's web-based, yeah.
See, I can't have that because when I'm in a lot of these facilities,
you have no internet.
You're cut off, right? So you can use, the good thing is you can use those Microsoft Office apps when you're not online, and it's fine.
Right.
The bad news is they still want you every 45 days or something. They need to phone home to confirm that you're still a subscriber.
Yeah.
For now, they may change that, but for now. So the question for me is, how badly do you not want to pay a subscription, even if it's at an education discount? Because that may be the only way you can do it.
This is what Microsoft wants.
That's how they get you.
They want the annuity. Hey, it's great.
I appreciate your help.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you, Sterling. I think you're doing the homework ahead of time, which is really smart, to make sure that it'll fit your particular needs. So good luck. I hope it does work. Let us know.
Okay, I will.
Thank you, Sterling. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Next week, Ian Thompson is my co-host. If you've got questions for me or Ian, here's how you can ask those questions.
Need tech help? The new screensavers are here with answers. Email your tech questions to newscreensavers@twit.tv.
We're going to New York City and the Maker Faire in just a little bit with Father Robert. We're also going to talk to a guy who is taking an Xbox and turning it into a laptop.
It's amazing.
Gaming on the move. But first, a word from Braintree. If you're a mobile app developer, if you want to add payments into your website or your mobile app, I know by now you know about Braintree if you've done the research. What I do hope is you're not saying, oh, that's no problem, I can write that myself. Please, first of all, very complex. There's a lot more to it than you think. It's kind of a rigid way to do it because what happens when there's a new form of payment? Then you've got to write it again or rewrite it. It may be good for your job security, but trust me, it's going to be a lot easier for your life going forward if you just take a look at Braintree. A few lines of code, easy integrations, gives you every way to pay, period, from pounds to PayPal to Bitcoin. Of course, Android Pay and Apple Pay. When the next new kind of payment came along, when Android Pay came out, people who were using Braintree just went to the Braintree control panel, checked the Android Pay box, and boom, they've got Android Pay in their app. There's another reason why you want to use Braintree. Your customers, and probably even you, have already used it. They're comfortable with it. They feel safe. It's secure, fraud resistant, fast payouts. They do a great job. And I'm telling you, you've used it because if you used Uber, Braintree, Lyft, Braintree, Airbnb uses Braintree, GitHub uses Braintree. It's used by the best in the business, and there's no accident there. It really is the best. So I want you to check it out. Go to braintreepayments.com/NSS. That way we get credit, and you get the best way to put payments into your mobile app ever. Braintree, a full-stack payment platform. Android, iOS, JavaScript, .NET, Node.js, Java, Perl, PHP, Python, Ruby. No matter how you're coding, Braintree has a solution for you. BraintreePayments.com/NSS. We thank them so much for their support of the new screensavers. You ready to go to New York City? Father Robert, he was just there for Maker Faire. Take a look.
Thanks, Leo, and welcome back to the studio. I'm here at Maker Faire 2016. It's the World Maker Faire in New York. Now, this definitely has a different look and feel from the one that we cover in San Mateo. First of all, it's bigger, but secondly, there's less Burning Man here and more really craft fair. That's really what we've seen this year. There's been a wonderful combination of the different, technologies from art and bio down to the electronics printing. And it's really shown in our Maker coverage from this special. Now, one of the coolest things that I've seen has been this movable trailer. It's a park inside of a movable container that you could literally bring into a city parking spot and have a quiet space. It's one of these things that makers should really start looking into. As our lives become increasingly fast and more hectic, it's nice to have someone who's designing spaces for us to have our peace and quiet. Now, there's been plenty of technology that I've lusted over. Everything from pick and place machines to a 3D printer for circuit boards to incredible filament that will allow us to use our standard 3D printers to make electronics-enabled 3D prints. I tell you, this is really a natural progression of where we want to go in the maker space. I've also seen a couple of things that have really inspired me. Like, for example, there's a maker here who has made molds, wooden molds, so that you can make incredibly cheap water filtration devices out of locally sourced materials for next to nothing. The idea behind this, of course, is that most of the world does not have clean water, but with these devices, we give them a way that not only can they make clean water for themselves, but for their neighboring communities. That's the kind of spirit of the maker that really makes me want to continue with this community. We've also seen the drone racing, we've seen rockets, and we've seen a lot of science education for young people who are just getting into what it means to have a love for technology. Now, in the special, the thing that I think you absolutely need to pay attention to is what we saw with Maker Pipe. This will be a way for people who don't have a lot of experience to build structures, load-bearing structures, with next to no experience and next to no training. Again, in the spirit of the maker. If our audience wants to see more, they need to go to twit.tv/specials to see the best of the best of the best that we saw at World Maker Faire 2016 in New York. I'm Father Robert Ballecer, the digital Jesuit, saying goodbye from the greatest show and tell on earth.
What is he wearing on his hat? What is that? Are those goggles?
Yeah.
I should talk.
Yeah.
Thank you, Father Robert. I know he loves going there every year, and I think he had a great time. Hey, on the line right now, we're talking about makers. Ed Zarek. Hey, Ed, how you doing?
Hey, guys, how are you?
Where are you?
Down in Southwest Florida.
Nice. Oh, are you okay?
Yeah, luckily I'm on the Gulf side.
Gulf side, yeah.
For us, it was sunny days.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear it. And by the way, our prayers go out to everybody in the path of the hurricane.
Absolutely.
It's calmed down a little bit, though, right? It's no longer Category 4.
And it was skirting the coast instead of hitting directly, which is good. I had a lot of family who used to live in Jacksonville, still have friends there. So they kind of, it was bad, but not as bad as it could have been, which is good.
So Ed, you are kind of a crazy man. I see your workshop here, though. I love this.
Yeah, here's part of it, yes.
This is awesome. This is your own, is this your basement?
This is my 2-car garage that I've kind of converted into like my own makerspace, if you will.
What all do you have in here? My gosh.
Well, this is just one side of it, but right behind me is a CNC mill, CNC router.
Nice.
Hardware that basically my own hardware store, 3D printers, laser cutters, lathes, and you mentioned I got it.
Is this a profession for you or just a hobby?
Kind of both.
Oh,
I would
good.
Say. That's what I do on my off days.
Nice.
But it's still a business, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So you did two things we want to talk about. One is the Weibo, but I also want to find out about this Xbox laptop. So you took the new Slim Xbox.
Yeah.
And what did you do?
You
tore it apart. Okay.
I went out and bought it basically the day it came out. Brought it home and just ripped it to shreds, and then I kind of create my own cases out of laser cut acrylic, 3D printed parts. Throw it all together, and then what you see there on the video is what you basically get. Just a way to basically play Xbox or PlayStation now portably on the go. Makes it good for a lot of military guys buy them so they can get deployed with them. A lot of athletes buy them because they're always traveling. People that travel a lot and want a game, it's the perfect.
This is a great idea. How big is that screen?
On the one here on the right, that's the new one. That's the S. That's a 19-inch screen. The one on the left next to it is a 22. Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah, you don't want it too small,
right?
Because you want a game, but at the same time, you don't want it too big, and that's why I made the S version. A lot of people are like, "Hey, the 22 is just slightly too big," as you can see.
Yeah.
And what can you do for me? And then luckily, Microsoft and Sony helped me out by making smaller versions.
So you also do PlayStation laptops.
Yeah, actually, just yesterday I finished the Playbook 4S, if you will, because they put out the new slim version. Just finished it for my PlayStation guys. I've been building these things for probably 3 or 4 years, so I'm always going back and forth. Whoever makes one, I decide to take it apart and make it a laptop.
You probably have a pretty good clientele. I think you mentioned 2 people who really could use these. Are guys overseas and in the military
and athletes who are traveling all the time. Yeah.
How much does it cost?
2 major customers.
Yeah, I bet.
These ones I basically sell completed, ready to go. Shipped to anybody $1,600. A lot of people go, "Whoa, that's a little expensive," but I have to tell people that's the time that goes into.
How long does it take? How long does it take to make one of these?
A couple days.
Yeah,
and that's it's
because you got to mill the acrylic for the box. You got to print out the little parts.
Luckily, for 3D printers, when I first got one, I was like, well, what am I going to do? Just print out little toys like everyone else is doing on the internet? And then when it hit me that, hey, I can make parts and I can make brackets that are specific to what I want. And then that's when I kind of took off with it. Funny enough, this new one doesn't even have much 3D printed parts. It's all laser cut acrylic is now what I'm using as a primary.
And you don't automate that. I mean, or do you? Can you program the CNC to do that?
Oh yeah, my laser cutter, basically I can throw a piece of acrylic in there, hit print, and then come back later and it has it all cut out with a beam of light, which is pretty amazing.
Oh, that's really neat. Yeah.
So you have to add, did I see that in where we would have a keyboard and a PC laptop, is that a speaker that you're putting in so that it's, because you got to supply not just the monitor, you got to supply the sound too.
Correct. The sound is actually right below. You can see 2 vents there at the bottom left and right. That big one is Microsoft's huge fan that's pushing all that hot air.
So you could heat your coffee on that.
Thanks, Microsoft.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I'd never recommend closing the lid because it has HDMI out if you still want to plug it into your TV at home.
But leave it open. Yeah.
Yeah, just because it's just the way it's designed, you're not going to get away from that.
Big fan. Got to have the fan hole.
Oh, my God.
Got to. Yeah.
But I bet the One S is
overheating.
Does the One S work a little bit better than the old Xbox?
I would say so.
Yeah.
It's super quiet. Obviously, you have the 4K. I'm not putting 4K out on a 19-inch television. That's not really possible. No. Not yet, at least. But
you also don't have the big power brick anymore, which is nice.
No. And actually, on all of my systems, even the one there on the left, which is the original, the power brick is included inside. Yeah.
That's
so
much
for me,
better.
I was way ahead of Microsoft.
They probably stole it from you. Sure. All right. Now, I never saw the Robin Williams version of Flubber. But I understand. Do we have video of the Weibo from the movie? Can we get this is a robot that Robin Williams, the inventor, built, and you said, "Wait a minute, I could do that too." Is that it?
Basically, yeah. Well, as a kid, this is one of my favorite movies. This is when Flubber's getting ready to come out of when he first discovers it. So you'll see Weibo here shortly. Yeah. But as a kid, I always loved Weibo. It was just I love Robin Williams, who doesn't. So I was in between projects from either making Xbox laptops. There's
Weibo, that floating little yellow thing.
Right. So I was in between actually making BB-8 and R2-D2. That's some things I was working on at the time, and I had some downtime. So I'm like, what should I make now while on my nights? And I'm like, Weibo. Hey, no one's done that before, so why not go after it?
But wait a minute, it doesn't fly, does it?
It doesn't. I have a video of mine actually working. Unfortunately,
if there were a Flubber, you could put it on Weibo, and then it would fly.
Right. And if I was doing that, I probably wouldn't be making Weibo. I'd be making some kind of drone for the government, right? But I designed here a robotic arm to kind of simulate.
This is awesome.
This is one of my first videos I did, so it's come a long way since then, and it's flying a lot better. And it actually took off pretty well. Actually, recently, I was actually out in San Francisco last month. I had the opportunity and the pleasure to meet Adam Savage from Mythbusters.
Oh, yeah.
And he actually worked on Flubber back in '97.
No
it was one of his films. And he actually designed and helped, well, not designed, sorry, he just helped make all the prototype Weibos and the, what am I looking for? Stunt Weibos for the movie.
The stunt Weibos, yeah.
So basically, you got that Weibo that looks awesome because it wasn't CG back then. It was an actual robot. Some of the times they want to take Weibo and throw her across the room, hit the wall, and they're not going to use their real expensive one.
Right.
So they had basically vacuum formed Weibos, and he built and painted all those. So we got in touch online, and I ended up making him one of my Weibos, and then in turn he actually, crazy enough, I love it. He traded me one of his screen used Weibos, which actually I've got sitting right here.
Oh, let me see. Oh, this is great.
There's a screen used Weibo.
Wow.
That's actually from the movie.
That's amazing.
Wow.
So,
what is your day job, Ed?
I am a full-time firefighter.
But, so the nice thing about being a firefighter is while you work long hours, like 24 hours a day, in the firehouse, you have long periods of time where you're not working.
Correct. We do 24 hours on, 48 hours off.
So that's
great.
For
me, it's a perfect job. I love it. It's a great job. And then at the same time, though, I have the ability to do my other love and passion.
That's awesome.
And I wouldn't have it any other way. I couldn't imagine doing it 8 to 5.
I love seeing somebody who has a dream and a passion really make it work. And I suspect that as time goes by, this might even be able to be a full-time job for you. It's amazing.
I got no idea.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see how that goes with that. Yeah, either way.
Well, it's so good to talk to you, Ed, and thank you for spending some time with us. That is super cool.
Guys.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Great.
And what's your YouTube channel if people want to see these videos?
It'll be Ed's Junk 337, I think, is the actual backslash for it. It was a name I highly regret that I made when I was a long time ago.
Or go to edsjunk.net. You'll have a link there.
Edsjunk.net. You'll see all that. It'll link to all my videos and all the projects I'm working on.
And I can buy these the portables on edsjunk.net.
Yeah, you can go there. You basically make a deposit, and that'll basically give me the money and the cash to go and start building it.
Because you got to make it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I make them to order. Something I'm actually looking at doing is, because the price is expensive, I do get it, because there's a lot of liability as well in it. I'm going to actually start making kits, I believe, so people can do it yourself, do it at home. You buy all the plastic parts from me, all the glues, the acrylics, everything. You get all that, and then you supply your own Xbox, your own television, and then I'll do probably a step-by-step how-to guide on how to do it, make your own. And I think that people will enjoy that because it's such a do-it-yourself world right now with all the makers out there.
You bet.
I think people will actually like that almost even more. So I'm probably going to start a Kickstarter here soon and try to figure out the best way to do it, or maybe just do it on my own. And then that's probably coming in a month or two.
Wow. Very impressive. Ed Zarek, thank you so much for joining us. edsjunk.net if you want to get one for yourself. And we'll keep an eye out for the project, because I have a feeling a kit would be fun to do here. We'd love to do that.
Maybe we'll send you guys one, have you guys build it.
That'd be fun. Thanks, Ed.
Absolutely.
Great to talk to you. All right, coming up, the mailbag in just a bit. But before we go on over to the mailbag, let's take a look at something Patrick Norton did up for us. How to buy an M.2 SSD enclosure. Take a look.
Got a question on my way to the bathroom here at Twit Eastside Studios. Does it matter which M.2 enclosure I use to make an external drive? Now, you might be going, M.2? Well, that's the SATA spec that's found on new motherboards and laptops, and a lot of people who bought laptops in the last couple of years are starting to recycle to larger capacity drives. They look a lot like this. And the reality is there's a few manufacturers out there that make them, but it doesn't really matter which brand you use. This is a ZTC Thunder enclosure. It costs a whopping $23. And this, like all the other enclosures, pretty much looks the same. There's some kind of aluminum exterior, and inside is a PCB with an M.2 connector on it. And that's pretty much the part that is generic. It's set up so it can use most of the different lengths of M.2, and it's keyed for usually B or B and M, so you can slide your drive in there, put a screw right here, and if I do this just right, kids, I won't break the drive or the enclosure, and I'll get to use this later on. This is a ZTC Thunder enclosure, sells for $23. If you want to spend a little bit less, the DeGaulle USB enclosure sells for a whopping, $13 on Amazon.com. It's got pretty favorable reviews. It's pretty much doesn't matter which M.2 enclosure you use as long as it's not NVMe, the latest round of drives. You probably don't even have one yet if you don't have a laptop bought in the last year and a half. NVMe will not work with the USB 3.0 enclosures because, hey, they're designed to run over PCI Express. And as far as I know, there are no external PCI Express NVMe or NVMe M.2 PCI Express adapters out there. That said, in the next couple of years, as more people start recycling NVMe M.2 drives, they might start to show up. So NVMe drives, not going to work for external enclosures. Everything else, get one of the cheap external adapters off of Amazon.com. Hey, got a hardware question? Fire it out to Ryan Shrout and I over on Twitch this week in Computer Hardware, which you can find every week here at twit.tv/Twitch.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you for filling in for us last week. It was Patrick and Jason Howell on the new screensavers. You know, I bought some time ago an upgrade, SSD upgrade for my MacBook from Otherworld Computing Mac Sales, and when I got it, they sent me an enclosure for the old one. And so I have, it's not very big, I think it's 128 gigs, because that's how big they were in those days. But I have exactly that, an enclosure. They're very compact.
Little hard drive.
USB, it's great. It's like the ultimate thumb drive. Although 128 gigs now, it's not.
I mean, yeah.
You can buy a thumb drive for that, for nothing. It's time for the mailbag. Would you like to do a mailbag?
I would. That's why I'm here. I love the mailbag.
I don't know why we call it the mailbag, because that sure
It's a mailbox.
It's a mailbox. It's time for the mailbox.
You need to get like one of those big canvas mailbags and have somebody toss it in at you.
Can we do that?
Mailbagging.
Then we would have trouble with
that's the stuff.
This.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't want that in a soft mailbag.
Did I bring this back from Russia without my knowledge? Wow, Russian standard vodka.
I don't know how to answer that question.
They actually had in St. Petersburg a vodka museum. I missed it. I didn't have time, unfortunately. Also in here, besides Russian standard vodka, is a question for you, Mr. Jason Snell, and for me. I'll tell you, I'll start with this one here.
Good, it's good.
Hey, Leo and friends, recently stumbled upon No Man's Sky and was completely memorable. By the way, there's been real complaints about this game overselling. You know, overhyping what it. I haven't played it yet. I'm dying to play it.
It's great.
Wait, have you played it?
Yeah.
I really want to play it. Anyway, he says I'm on a quest to play the game. I guess he hasn't got it yet. But he doesn't have a PlayStation or a PC apparently. All he has is a MacBook Pro. And there are the specs there. He's wondering if he could do it in boot camp. Could he run boot camp on a MacBook Pro? Or secretly purchase a PlayStation 4 without my partner knowing about it? What do you think?
So you know PC specs better than I do.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a 3-year-old MacBook Pro, but it's got an i7. But what about the graphics
That's
card?
the problem. So this is motherboard graphics. Some MacBooks have dedicated
graphics. Yeah.
And those MacBooks might be able to do it. But this is an Iris Pro motherboard graphics, and it's the older generation Iris. The minimum spec for the game is a GTX 480, which isn't admittedly the top of the line. But I don't.
Yeah, I think that's it. If it had discrete graphics on the MacBook Pro, I think you could do it. I play No Man's Sky on my iMac.
Oh, do you?
And my 2014
Does it look pretty
Retina
good?
iMac looks great. and I actually plug in my Xbox One controller.
But you use Boot Camp, obviously.
I am using Boot Camp.
You wouldn't use VMware?
No. You want it to be as little between your hardware and the game as possible.
Well, I mean, even Walt Mossberg said the best Windows machine ever was a Macintosh. It runs Windows just like a standalone Windows machine.
Boot into Windows 10 and it works great. But you got to have I've got a good graphics card, and my fear is that this late 13 MacBook Pro that he's describing here doesn't quite do it.
The real and also 6 gigs of RAM is a little light too. The real question is whether the game would run and run poorly or not run at all. My guess is it would run. It just would run so slowly. Frame rates would be so terrible.
Low resolutions and frame rates. And one of the great appeals of No Man's Sky and it's the graphics. They are beautiful. The whole idea, the reason that you play this game is you want to be immersed in alien worlds and traveling and exploring and finding these new creatures and on these strange planets. And if you're at low resolution, low frame rate, the illusion's going to be broken, and it's not going to be that fun.
I was waiting because I was thinking of getting the PlayStation VR. I was actually really hoping this would be one of the VR titles, to be honest.
It would be
awesome?
natural, right?
Yeah. But now I'm glad to know I could run it on my iMac if I just
you can just put on Boot Camp.
All right.
It works great. I'm impressed. And using my Xbox One controller just via USB.
Right.
And Windows 10 picks that up immediately, and then I'm just sitting in front of a nice, huge 27-inch 5K screen.
Perfect.
With a controller. Yeah,
Perfect.
It's great.
Perfect.
But that doesn't help Michael. So I think, Michael, your best bet is either to convince your partner you need a new laptop with discrete graphics, or
there you go.
Put a PlayStation 4 in a cardboard box and write "Don't look in here" on it.
What's your advice? You should not buy a Mac laptop today.
No, you should definitely not. I would say think about the new Mac laptops that hopefully will come out later this month and look and see if it's time for an upgrade.
Yeah, we expect October will bring us at least a new MacBook Pro.
Right, which is going to be what you want, because you're going to want
USB-C.
one with the good discrete graphics on it.
Are they, do you think, going to abandon the MagSafe adapter for USB-C as they did with the MacBook?
It's possible.
Boy,
it's
that'd
possible.
Be interesting.
I think that's one of the big open questions about this is, are they going to go full bore into USB-C? Because if it's Thunderbolt 3, that uses the same connector as USB-C. So they can get rid of all their Thunderbolt ports and their USB ports and just have a few USB-C ports. We may be a year away from that. It might be a transitional laptop this time.
And we don't know what their invitations haven't gone out yet.
No, it's just rumors that something's coming.
I think I heard October 26th, somebody said.
Yeah, then they moved their quarterly report date, which suggests that maybe they had to move. Either, I think I said this on MacBreak Weekly this week, either Tim Cook has a dentist appointment that day and he just can't get it off, or they have to move it because they need to be out of the quiet period, or they need to do an event on that day, or something related to an event that they've scheduled, which I think earlier this year, they thought they would ship these things at WWDC in the summertime, and they got delayed.
Yeah.
And so now they need to, I think, make a new event.
Now I'm really waiting because my iMac in my office died.
All the Macs
I want a new MacBook.
Are old. They need to update all of them now.
You got a question there?
I do have a question. This question comes to us from Derek. Derek says, can you explain iCloud Photo Library?
No one can.
Is it free? If I enable it, do all my photos back up to the cloud on all my Apple devices? Do my photos stay in the cloud forever? I'm apprehensive about enabling. I want to use it as a backup to my Google Photos backup.
He's got questions.
I have answers. I wrote a whole book about photos. I have answers.
It needed a book, frankly.
It did.
Okay.
It did. So the answer is, yeah, it's free, but only 5 gigs of it. And that's 5 gigs no matter how many.
It's using your iCloud storage.
It uses your iCloud storage. So no matter how many devices you've got linked to your Apple ID, you still only get 5 gigs for free. Now you can get, I think, 50 gigs for 99 cents a month, which is not a bad deal.
I did the $2 for 200, I think, is what it is. Right?
Yeah, there's a few different plans, all the way up to a terabyte, and I think now 2 terabytes.
It is not the cheapest cloud storage out there.
It's not terrible. It's sort of in the ballpark in a way that it didn't used to be. It's sort of in the Dropbox and Microsoft ballpark, but it's not as cheap as sort of Google or Amazon offering.
Well, he's comparing it to Google Photos, which is free for reduced size.
Yeah,
images.
for slightly reduced.
Yeah. By the way, I find it's pretty good. I just use
Google Photos is great. The problem is if you're using an iPhone, Google Photos, I believe you have to, every now and then you need to launch it so that it can upload your photos. Because it doesn't run in the background. And Apple, as the platform vendor, gets to run and sync all your photos in the background without you ever doing anything. But yeah, depending on how many photos you've got, you could either use the free space or more likely buy for cheap, like $12 a year, a little more space. And then they will back up from all your Apple devices to the cloud, and they will sync to each other. You
and
can
they
see
back
them.
up full quality, right?
Full quality. That's right. And you can set them they don't all have to download to your devices. They can live in the cloud. The cloud can be a backup. And then you can tap on one and it gets downloaded on demand.
So what I do on my iOS devices is I turn that on and I say, yes, let you manage the storage.
Yes.
Because in theory, you're never going to fill up your iPad or iPhone because Apple will back up the high-res, full-quality versions and then put smaller versions on your phone. Although I noticed 20 gigs of photos on here.
So the way
but that's because it says there's enough free space.
Yeah, I think on the iPhone, the way it works is that it waits until you're at about 10% of your storage is free, at which point it'll start purging some of your, essentially your photos
But you'll always
cache.
have a thumbnail.
You'll always have a thumbnail, and then if you tap, it will load the photo in the background.
Right.
And on the same deal on the Mac, you can set the Mac to keep all your photos, or you can set it to optimize photo storage, and the same thing will happen. In fact, on Sierra, it will just kind of do that dynamically, that if you want to copy a file and there's not enough free space, it knows to delete those temporary versions of the photos because it knows that they're also in the cloud. And I've been using it for more than a year now, and I don't lose my photos. In fact, if you delete a photo and you're syncing with iCloud Photo Library, it basically goes in a holding bin for somewhere between 30 and 40 days.
So it will potentially delete it from the library. But not right away.
But not right away. So even if you delete something and then you have regrets later, if it's been less than a month, you can get it back.
One of the reasons I use both. One of the reasons I also use Google Photos like Derek is because Google Photos, unlike Apple Photos, has a button to delete backed up photos.
Right. And Apple wants to manage that without any UI, which is fine when it works. But if you get in a point where it's not acting transparently and you have that moment where you're like, why can't I fit this? Oh, it's because all those photos, there's no button to push, which is really frustrating. There's no button to say, can you just blow out the cache of photos here because I really need this free space? And I wish Apple would add that feature.
It's a little janky. You have to press the button here that says, can you get that close up of that? I'm not sure if you can see that. Yeah. It says free up space. This is in Google Photos. But it doesn't erase it. It just moves it into the trash can of iCloud Photos, itself, right? And then you have to go into Photos. It even explains how to do this. You have to then go into Photos and delete it there. But at least there's a way to do it on the phone. Apple doesn't even offer you that.
Right. So I think if you want an alternative or an addition to Google Photos, iCloud Photo Library is great because it's always backing up what you shoot.
Right.
And depending on what the cost is, it may be worth it to you. The other thing would be if you are somebody who's paying for Dropbox or you've got a lot of free Dropbox storage, you could also use Dropbox as a photos backup. Dropbox will
Amazon Prime members get free backup.
That's
too,
right.
unlimited.
You just have to remember to launch those apps because unlike Apple's app, those other apps, if they're not running, they can't back up your photos.
Apple, one of the reasons you get such great battery life on an iPhone is Apple doesn't let anybody run in the background forever except their own apps.
Right, and once they go away, then they don't have the ability to sort of call back and continue the upload.
Yeah, I launch my Google Photos every few days just to make sure it's.
That's the trick, and it's a shame. It would be great if Apple added a little API for that for developers to use, but I think maybe there's a reason they don't because they want to not only have more control over battery life, but of course that makes their photo sync better than everyone else's.
You can't knock the battery life. In fact, we were talking about the new Apple Watch, and boy, the battery life is better. WatchOS 3 improved it, but also this is a slice thicker now.
Yeah, I can't notice the thickness difference or the weight difference.
Either.
I just don't notice it, but it is the rare Apple product that got bigger when it went to another generation, and it shows
the biggest Apple Watch we've ever made.
And it shows that with especially adding the GPS in there, they really needed to add battery. And I heard from a lot of people, especially very active people, and especially people using the smaller model, the 38 millimeter, who said that they actually did have battery problems. So between this and WatchOS 3,
because she would work out, she would use the heart rate, and it would kill the. She stopped using the Apple Watch for that reason. She had the 38. I have the 42, and it always made it through the day. But today, I took a spin class, had a heart rate monitor on full time for an hour and a half. It's still at 81%.
Yeah.
It's remarkable how much better the battery life is. So that's good news. And of course, the phone. This thing just goes and goes and goes. And
the Plus especially.
Yeah, I was very happy traveling with this because that's where you really feel it.
And that's where you want the good camera too.
Jason, you and I have a date with some Russian standard, but I want to thank you so much for being such a trooper and being here all week.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm always honored to be invited.
We love having you on the shows, and your knowledge is so great. Thanks for filling out the Tech Guy especially. Yeah. We do the new Screensavers every Saturday afternoon, about 3 p.m. Pacific. It's right after the radio show, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 2200. We tell you that so that you can watch live if you want. You're kind of watching the sausage being made, although you know, sometimes you get more of a show experience, sometimes less, depending on how technical the issues are and whether things go wrong. But if you like watching behind the scenes, please tune in. The real advantage to that is if you're watching live, you can interact with us live in the chat room at irc.twit.tv. But as always, for your convenience, every single show we do is available for download, audio or video, whether it's at our website, in this case, twit.tv/NSS for new Screensavers, or on any one of a million different podcasting applications, iTunes, for instance. We're on Google's Music. They have podcasts now, Spotify, Slacker, Stitcher, everywhere you would get your podcast. Of course, Apple's podcast app as well. Make sure you subscribe, though. That way you'll get every episode, audio or video. We want to make sure you're here. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on the new Screensavers. Bye-bye.
Yeehaw!
Yeehaw! We got 2 Irish cowboys.